in the early hours of December 23, 1941, the skies above Wake Island roared with the chaos of battle. Amid the Japanese assault on this remote Pacific outpost, a United States Navy Grumman F4F3 Wildcat fighter, its wings battered and engine sputtering, crash-landed on the coral-strewn atoll. Remarkably, the aircraft remained largely intact, a prize too valuable for the Japanese forces to ignore. Seized by the Imperial Japanese Navy, this rugged American fighter was shipped to Japan, meticulously repaired, and subjected to exhaustive testing. The study of this captured Wildcat offered Japan a rare glimpse into American aviation technology, revealing a machine built for durability rather than finesse. Compared to the nimble Mitsubishi A6M0, the Wildcat was slower and less agile, but boasted superior construction, self-sealing fuel tanks, and formidable firepower. This analysis shaped Japanese tactics, emphasizing swift strikes over prolonged dogfights, and provided insights that lingered in their aviation strategy. To understand how this single aircraft influenced the Pacific War, let's journey back to the turbulent opening days of the conflict. Hopefully, this tale of engineering and espionage doesn't leave you spinning like a zero in a tight turn. The story begins in the shadow of the 1930s, a decade when global powers raced to dominate the skies. Japan, emerging as a formidable aviation power, had developed the Mitsubishi A6M0, a fighter that would become legendary for its agility and range. Meanwhile, across the Pacific, the United States was refining its own naval aviation. Grumman, a company founded by Leroy Grumman in 1929, had earned a reputation for building robust aircraft. By 1937, Grumman's F4F series, initially designated as the F4F1, was evolving into a cornerstone of American carrier-based air power. The F4F3, introduced in 1940, was a refined iteration designed to counter the growing threat of Japanese expansion in the Pacific. Its development was driven by the need for a fighter that could withstand the rigors of naval combat, from catapult launches to rough carrier landings. The United States Navy, anticipating conflict, prioritized durability and firepower over sheer maneuverability, a philosophy that would soon be tested against Japan's finest. The capture of the F4F3 Wildcat on Wake Island was a stroke of fortune for Japan. The attack on Wake, launched just hours after Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, was a bold move to secure a strategic outpost. American defenders, including Marine Fighter Squadron 211, fought valiantly with their Wildcats. One pilot, Captain Henry Elrod, earned the Medal of Honor posthumously for his actions, downing enemy aircraft before his Wildcat was grounded. During the island's fall on December 23rd, one of these aircraft, serial number 4019, crash-landed after sustaining damage. Japanese forces, recognizing its value, carefully salvaged the machine. Transported to Yokosuka Naval Air Station, the Wildcat underwent meticulous restoration by engineers eager to unlock its secrets. This wasn't Japan's first encounter with American aircraft. Wrecked planes had been studied before, but an intact F4F3 offered unprecedented access to cutting-edge technology. Getting it airworthy, though, was no small feat. Imagine the engineer's frustration, piecing together a foreign machine without a manual. Talk about a puzzle that'd make even the most patient mechanic curse. Restoration began in early 1942 at Yokosuka, a hub of Japanese naval aviation. The Imperial Japanese Navy's technical staff, led by engineers like Commander Aichi Iwaya, worked to return the Wildcat to flying condition. Damaged components, including the wings and landing gear, were repaired using Japanese materials, while the Pratt & Whitney R1830 Twin Wasp engine, a 14-cylinder radial producing 1,200 horsepower, was overhauled. By mid-1942, the Wildcat was ready for flight testing, conducted by experienced pilots from the Yokosuka Naval Air Technical Arsenal. These tests, held at Kakamigahara Airfield, aimed to evaluate the aircraft's performance against Japan's A6M0 and other fighters. The process was meticulous, with engineers documenting every aspect of the Wildcat's design, from its airframe to its armament. Japan's aviation industry, though advanced, faced resource constraints, and studying the Wildcat offered insights into American manufacturing techniques. The effort wasn't without setbacks. Spare parts were non-existent, and some systems like the hydraulic controls baffled Japanese technicians unfamiliar with American designs. The F4F3. Wildcat was a study in contrasts with the Mitsubishi A6M0. Physically, the Wildcat was a stocky beast, with a wingspan of 38 feet and a length of 28 feet 9 inches. Its empty weight was 5,785 pounds, significantly heavier than the Zero's 4,160 pounds. The Wildcat's all-metal construction, using stressed aluminum skin, gave it a ruggedness that the Zero, with its lightweight aluminum frame and fabric-covered control surfaces, couldn't match. The Wildcat's wings, equipped with a single main spar and robust ribs, could withstand significant battle damage. Its self-sealing fuel tanks, a feature absent in early Zeros, reduced the risk of fire, a critical advantage in combat. The Wildcat's cockpit, protected by armor plating behind the pilot's seat, offered a level of safety that Japanese pilots, exposed in their lightly built Zeros, envied. The Wildcat's .450 caliber Browning machine guns, mounted in the wings, delivered a punishing rate of fire, about 800 rounds per minute per gun. In contrast, the Zero's two 20mm cannons and two 7.7mm machine guns, while effective, carried less ammunition, limiting sustained engagements. The Wildcat's guns, though, came with a catch. Aiming them required a steady hand, as the aircraft's stability wasn't exactly forgiving. Talk about needing a pilot with nerves of steel and a chiropractor on speed dial. The heart of the Wildcat was its Pratt & Whitney R1830 twin Wasp engine, a radial powerhouse that churned out 1,200 horsepower at takeoff. This gave the F4F3 a top speed of 331 miles per hour at 21,000 feet, respectable but slower than the Zero's 336 miles per hour. The Wildcat's climb rate, at 2,050 feet per minute, lagged behind the Zero's 3,000 feet per minute, and its service ceiling of 37,500 feet was slightly lower than the Zero's 33,600 feet. However, the Wildcat excelled in diving, thanks to its sturdy airframe, allowing pilots to escape trouble with steep, high-speed plunges, a tactic Japanese pilots noted with interest. The Wildcat's range, about 845 miles, was comparable to the Zero's, but its manual landing gear, cranked by hand, was a sore point. Japanese test pilots, accustomed to the Zero's retractable gear, found this feature cumbersome, jokingly suggesting it doubled as a workout for American pilots. The Wildcat's hydraulic system, controlling flaps and ailerons, was another point of study, as Japan's aircraft relied more on mechanical linkages. These technical differences highlighted a philosophical divide. American engineers prioritized survivability, while Japanese designers chased agility. Flight testing at Kakamigahara revealed the Wildcat's strengths and weaknesses in stark detail. Japanese pilots, including Lieutenant Commander Minoru Genda, a key planner of the Pearl Harbor attack, flew the captured F4F3 to assess its handling. The Wildcat's controls were responsive but less nimble than the Zero's, with a tendency to roll more slowly due to its heavier build. In mock dogfights, the Zero's tighter turning radius, about 600 feet compared to the Wildcat's 800 feet, allowed it to outmaneuver the American fighter in low-speed engagements. However, the Wildcat's robust construction meant it could absorb punishment that would shred a Zero. Japanese engineers marveled at the self-sealing fuel tanks, which used layers of rubber to close bullet holes, a technology Japan later adopted in modified Zeros. The Wildcat's armor, weighing about 150 pounds, protected the pilot from small arms fire, a feature absent in the Zero's design. Test reports noted the Wildcat's stability in high-speed dives, reaching speeds up to 400 miles per hour without structural failure. This durability came at a cost. Its weight reduced agility, making it less suited for the tight, circling dogfights favored by Japanese pilots. The Wildcat's manual gear, requiring 30 hand cranks to retract, drew chuckles from test crews, who imagined American pilots building biceps mid-flight. The operational implications of these findings were profound. Japanese tacticians, analyzing the test data, recognized that the Zero's advantages lay in its maneuverability and climb rate, ideal for quick, decisive strikes. The Wildcat, however, demanded a different approach. Its ability to withstand damage and maintain firepower in prolonged engagements suggested that Japanese pilots should avoid extended dogfights. Instead, they developed hit-and-run tactics, using the Zero's speed and agility to strike and disengage before Wildcats could leverage their durability. These insights were disseminated to units like the Tainan Air Group, operating in the South Pacific, where pilots like Saburo Sakai faced Wildcats in combat. Sakai, who flew Zeros from Rabaul, noted the Wildcat's resilience, recalling instances where American fighters absorbed multiple cannon hits, yet continued fighting. By mid-1942, Japanese training manuals emphasized high-altitude attacks and diving passes to exploit the Zero's strengths while minimizing exposure to the Wildcat's firepower. This tactical shift proved effective in early engagements, such as the Battle of the Coral Sea in May 1942, where Zeros used their agility to outmaneuver American formations. The captured Wildcat's journey wasn't limited to the test fields of Kakamigahara. By late 1942, it was flown in demonstrations across Japan, showcasing American technology to military officials and engineers. These displays, often held at airfields like Atsugi, highlighted the Wildcat's robust design to inspire improvements in Japanese aircraft. The Mitsubishi A6M3, a later Zero variant, incorporated heavier armament and limited armor, reflecting lessons from the Wildcat. Engineers at Nakajima, another major aircraft manufacturer, studied the Wildcat's self-sealing tanks, integrating similar technology into the Ki-44 Shoki fighter. The Wildcat's influence extended to training programs, where Japanese pilots practiced against a simulated Wildcat profile, mimicking its dive and firepower characteristics. By 1943, however, the aircraft's utility waned. With newer American fighters like the F4F Hellcat entering service, the F4F-3 became less relevant. Likely scrapped by late 1943, the Wildcat's airframe was dismantled, its components studied until they offered no further insights. Disposing of such a hefty machine probably wasn't easy. Imagine the scrapyard crew wondering if they'd get a bonus for wrestling that beast apart. The Wildcat's technical details, as uncovered by Japanese engineers, painted a picture of a machine built for survival. Its airframe, constructed from high-strength aluminum, used a flush-riveted skin to reduce drag, a technique Japan noted for its manufacturing precision. The wings, spanning 38 feet, featured a NACA 23018 airfoil at the root, transitioning to a 2309 at the tip, optimizing lift and stability. The Wildcat's empty weight of 5,785 pounds and maximum takeoff weight of 7,975 pounds reflected its heavy-duty design. Its fuel capacity, 147 gallons in 2 wing tanks, was protected by self-sealing liners, a feature that fascinated Japanese engineers accustomed to the Zero's unprotected tanks. The 50 caliber Brownings, each carrying 400 rounds, provided a total firing time of about 30 seconds, a significant advantage over the Zero's cannons, which exhausted their 60 rounds in seconds. The Wildcat's hydraulic flaps, adjustable to 30 degrees, improved low-speed handling, though Japanese pilots found them sluggish compared to the Zero's responsive controls. The manual landing gear, a relic of earlier designs, required a pilot to crank a handle 30 times, a feature Japanese testers found laughably outdated, joking it was America's secret weapon for building pilot endurance. Operationally, the Wildcat's performance in American hands validated Japan's findings. In the Battle of Midway, June 4th to 7th, 1942, Marine Fighter Squadron 221 flew F4F-3s from Midway Atoll, engaging Japanese carriers. Though outmaneuvered by Zeros, the Wildcat's durability allowed pilots like Captain John Carey to survive multiple hits and continue fighting. Carey, shot down but rescued, noted the Wildcat's ability to take a licking and keep on ticking, a testament to its ruggedness. In the Guadalcanal campaign, starting August 7, 1942, the Cactus Air Force relied heavily on Wildcats from carriers like the Enterprise and Saratoga. Pilots like Lieutenant James Sweat used the Wildcat's dive capability to counter Zeros, scoring 7 victories in a single day on April 7, 1943. The Wildcat's ability to absorb damage frustrated Japanese pilots, who found their cannon shells less effective against its armored cockpit and fuel tanks. However, the Wildcat's slower speed and climb rate meant American pilots had to rely on teamwork, using formations like the thatch weave to trap Zeros. This tactic, developed by Lieutenant Commander John Thatch, allowed Wildcats to cover each other, turning the Zeros' agility against it. Japanese pilots, trained on the captured Wildcat's weaknesses, adapted by avoiding such traps, preferring high-speed passes. The Wildcat's operational history wasn't without flaws. Its manual landing gear, while reliable, was a liability in combat, as pilots couldn't retract it quickly under fire. The hydraulic system, though advanced, was prone to leaks under battle stress. A detail Japanese engineers noted during testing. The Wildcat's weight made it less forgiving in low-speed stalls, requiring skilled pilots to avoid spins, a challenge for green aviators in the Pacific's chaotic battles. Maintenance crews, like those at Henderson Field on Guadalcanal, worked tirelessly to keep Wildcats airworthy, often patching bullet-riddled wings under primitive conditions. The aircraft's ruggedness was a lifesaver, but its 400 horsepower less than the Zero's Nakajima Sake engine meant it struggled to match the Japanese fighters' climb and turn performance. Japanese test pilots, flying the captured Wildcat, confirmed these limitations, noting its sluggish response in tight maneuvers. Yet, they respected its ability to endure, with one report stating, "The American machine laughs at damage that would destroy our Zero." This durability shaped Japanese tactics, pushing pilots to strike quickly and avoid prolonged engagements where the Wildcat's resilience shone. The Wildcat's influence extended beyond tactics to Japan's aviation industry. The study of its self-sealing tanks led to retrofits on later Zero models, like the A6M5, which added rubber-lined tanks to reduce fire risk. Nakajima's Ki-44 Shoki, introduced in 1942, adopted heavier armor inspired by the Wildcat, though at the cost of agility. The Wildcat's 50 caliber guns prompted Japan to experiment with heavier armament, though resource shortages limited implementation. At airfields like Atsugi, engineers disassembled the Wildcat's engine, marveling at the precision of its fuel injection system, a contrast to the Zero's simpler carburetor. These lessons, while valuable, came at a time when Japan's industry was stretched thin. By 1943, material shortages and Allied bombing hampered efforts to apply these insights broadly. The Wildcat's study, though, gave Japan a brief edge, allowing pilots to anticipate American tactics in battles like Santa Cruz in October 1942, where Zeros used hit-and-run strikes to disrupt Wildcat formations. The human element of the Wildcat's story adds depth to its legacy. American pilots, like Lieutenant Commander Edward O'Hare, who earned the Medal of Honor defending the carrier Lexington in February 1942, relied on the Wildcat's durability to survive intense combat. O'Hare, flying from the Lexington, downed 5 Japanese bombers in minutes, his Wildcat's armor absorbing return fire. Japanese pilots, like Tetsuzo Iwamoto, who encountered Wildcats over Rabaul, respected their resilience but exploited their slower speed. Iwamoto's after-action reports, studied by historians, reflect frustration at the Wildcat's ability to stay airborne despite heavy damage. Ground crews, both American and Japanese, played critical roles. At Yokosuka, Japanese mechanics like technician Hiroshi Tanaka worked long hours to restore the captured Wildcat, their notes detailing its rugged construction. On Guadalcanal, American mechanics like Sergeant William Harper patched Wildcats under enemy fire, ensuring pilots could return to the fight. These stories highlight the human ingenuity and resilience behind the machines, a reminder that aviation history is as much about people as technology. By 1943, the F4F Wildcat's role in American squadrons was waning. The arrival of the Grumman F6F Hellcat, with its 2,000 horsepower engine and 650 caliber guns, outclassed both the Wildcat and the Zero. The captured Wildcat, likely dismantled at Yokosuka, left no physical trace, but its impact lingered. Japanese pilots, trained on its characteristics, faced Hellcats with tactics honed against the Wildcat, though the Hellcat's superior speed nullified many advantages. The Wildcat's legacy, though, endured in American hands. Over 7,800 F4Fs were built, serving in every major Pacific campaign. Surviving examples, like the F4F-3 at the National Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola, Florida, preserve its story. The Wildcat's rugged design influenced later fighters, including the Hellcat and Corsair, cementing Grumman's reputation for building ironworks aircraft. Its cultural footprint appears in films like Midway, where its dogfights capture the era's intensity. Hopefully, this tale of a captured Wildcat gives you a new appreciation for the unsung hero of the Pacific skies. After all, it's not every day a crashed plane shapes a war's tactics.